Alright, so this is the table that all the Super Mario speedrunners are trying to win.
We're making a Mario desk. You might be asking yourself, why? Why would you do that? Great question. We're doing this to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the original Nintendo Mario video game. We thought it'd be fun to honor the game we all grew up on, and we saw it as an opportunity to put our woodworking skills to the test. For the design, we photoshopped a composition of Mario elements, each pixel for pixel match from the original game. First challenge in this project is choosing the wood species that match the tones and values of those pixels. And once we settle on that, it's time to start building. We'll begin with the desktop, since that's the canvas where all the Mario elements will be inlaid. Cherry makes the most sense here. It's a good mid-tone wood. It
They should have done 4-2, obviously, but I mean, I'll take it.
contrasts nicely with both lighter and darker woods. Here I'm picking through the sheets of veneer to get the look that I want for the background of the desk. So this
Or 8-4. I mean, but again, I'll take it.
one basically is quarter sawn. See, all these lines are going in the same direction. Then you've got this one over here. This would be flat sawn. You can see these big cathedrals. It's a little more wavy and ethereal looking. For higher up in the sky, I kind of like this. Kind of has like a cloud feel to it. And I think down lower, behind the hills and the castle, closer to the ground, I think I'm gonna go with something a little straighter. Once selected, cut and trimmed to size, I take the sheets and head over to one of the
So, anyways, really, two people are competing for this: Verge and Niftski. I know Niftski live streams quite a bit, so you can check him out on YouTube.
wackiest machines in our shop, the veneer stitcher. It's kind of unbelievable that this thing even works. It's basically a sewing machine for woodworkers. It takes a fiberglass thread, which is wrapped in hot glue, heats it up through the machine, and then presses it down with a roller. It's not a permanent bond, but it holds it together long enough for us to get it over to our veneer press. Then we glue the big sheet of cherry veneer onto the combi core panel. We load it onto the veneer press, which uses hydraulic pressure to create a flawless surface. Lastly, the panels head to the CNC. It's a two-step process here to establish the final desk geometry. We cut out some parts, reassemble, and then run it again. That's it. That's the desktop. And now we can start building the fun part. The first Mario element
So that's a pretty huge desk. That's humongous.
that we're tackling are the stairs. It's one of the most iconic features of a Mario stage, so I wanted to tackle this first. If we can't get the stairs looking right, nothing else is going to look right. This is a pretty straightforward geometric assembly using 3 woods: cherry, wenge, and maple. It's basically just the shapes of the blocks as they appear on the reference image. The tricky part is making sure that everything stays square. We're not quite there, JB. The pieces that have the angles cut on them, from here to here is a little bit too long. So I'm gonna take them back and I'm gonna trim a little bit more. If the shape isn't right at this stage, compounding errors make tiling later a nightmare. So it takes a little fine tuning now to save yourself headaches in the future. Once the pieces are shaped and aligned, it's time for glue up. I'm using
I just noticed that it says the nicest desk we've ever made. Please don't sue us. I think that's a little shot at Nintendo.
Type Bond 3 here because it has a longer open time than other wood glues, which is perfect when you've got lots of small pieces to place before clamping. Next, the assembly goes to the table saw. We need tiles just under 1/16 of an inch thick, which are tricky to cut. Running them straight along the fence risks them breaking apart or getting sucked into the machine. So I build a small carriage sled that supports the piece on 3 sides and carries the cutoff safely past the blade. Simple, but effective. The result are clean, consistent cuts that make assembly much easier. Now we simply arrange all of our tiles. This part is basically Tetris. I just need to put them together in the right order and see if it actually looks like the Mario staircase we're aiming for.
That's
Looks pretty cool. The effect works.
Yeah.
The effect is pretty cool.
After finishing the staircase, I moved on to the ground tiles. I followed the same process here as I did for the stairs.
Could have done the flagpole glitch. That would have been cool, but you know.
Cut out the individual pieces of wood, glue them together into a larger block, and slice the tiles with the sled. Probably the part that I was most nervous about pulling off. I mean, it's all squares and rectangles, which doesn't seem very complex, but the amount of pieces, the opportunity for stacked tolerance errors, being off even like a few thousandths of an inch on each piece over the width of the tile is actually a huge error. Once the blocks are ready, I laid them next to the stairs on the desktop to visualize how things were coming together. Even at this stage, it captures that pixelated Mario ground tile feel, and I was pretty happy with how it came out. The castle is a little more complicated because the intersections of the door and the windows sort of made the tiling aspect complicated. So I opted to approach it a little.
All right, so who do y'all think is going to win this thing? Is it going to be a Verge? Is it going to be Niftski? Is there going to be a dark horse?
Differently. Instead of doing square aspect tiles, I'm going to do a long section, basically a line of brickwork that I can then alternate. So now we're going to process this and then lay on another sheet of wenge, which will complete that 3/4 frame around the red bricks. And that'll give us the look we're looking for once we stack them.
Some exciting footage of unscrewing all these clamps that we screwed together. Well, more than I expected. It doesn't usually look like that. It's kind of cool, actually. Just shave that off real quick.
There it is. So I'm going to clean up the edge of this, cross-cut it, and then we'll start ripping the strips off. Now you can see much more clearly the actual brick that we're going to be using. Looking at this image here, you can see how if you stack those and alternate them, you're going to get the look we're looking for. Next element of the castle, now that we have the bricks for the walls complete, is going to be the turret that sits in the middle and on top of the castle. Again, this is just a build-up of a few different rectangles. It's going to be the same cherry for the bricks with a maple highlight and wenge. And I'm adding in a block of elm, basically as a space saver, like a waster. It doesn't appear in the castle image, but I want to have it there to make sure it maintains the location of all the other elements properly. I'm going to chop it out afterwards before the turret actually gets installed. We're going to cut these into chunks because this needs to be repeated.
I don't know if they're going to mention it, but there is also a cash prize of like $5,000 for the winner, and I think 2,500 for second place. Hopefully they mention something about it, but I think that's really cool.
The last and simplest part was cutting the shapes for the door and the windows out of wenge.
Yeah, looking good.
So now the stairs, ground, and castle are done. But there's a ton more Mario elements left, and at this point in time, Mario's 40th anniversary deadline is only 2 weeks away. So we decide to pull in Tonio and the laser to make some of the smaller Mario elements. So here we're cutting out some of the clouds. Now this could certainly be done with a scroll saw, if you're very careful. Don't notice the band-aid on my finger in some of the other shots. Certainly there's other ways to cut these out. The laser is just pretty quick. Now a laser is a tool like any other tool. You can do it well and you can do it badly. If you just slap an image in, cut a bunch of different pieces out, glue them together, they might be kind of gappy. They might not fit very well, just like if you sawed them out that way. Tonio had to spend some time doing some fine tuning. It isn't as easy necessarily as it looks, and there's things you need to pay attention to get a good result.
For nearly 50 years, Harbor Freight has been a reliable source for the widest variety of tools.
This is interesting.
So when this first came out, I heard some people mentioning that Niftski was obviously going to win, and how awesome is it that there's a lot of competition at the moment? Because he went unchallenged for a long time in the Super Mario World Record. Um, so yeah, I think that's awesome that all of a sudden now there's a lot of competition.
Elements like this, which are a series of very small squares, basically here, how do you assemble all those pieces, keep them in the correct order, and keep them geometrically aligned correctly so that when you glue them down, they stay where they should be. So he's assembling them into the frame so it holds all the small pieces in the correct orientation. And I think the result was actually excellent. The characters came out very crisp. I feel like hand cutting on a scroll saw lends itself very well to more organic, type shapes, like we've done in the past flowers, we've done, birds, things like that. It works very well for those where the elements are not repeated over and over. So, a line being a little bit this way or that actually doesn't impact the visual of the piece at all. With something like these vines where we're repeating the motif over and over, they really need to be the same. The laser is perfectly suited for that type of thing. It can make the straights perfectly straight where that's important, which is very difficult to do by hand, and it will make each of the panels identical, which is important and difficult to do by hand. Reviewing some of the laser elements to make sure the fit and finish was appropriate, we looked at the vines, and Tonio highlighted a few gaps in around some of the leaves and in the corners where the leaves meet the stem. Gaps this size in those areas are not going to be a problem for this type of assembly. When we glue this down, all of these elements are going to swell and fill up these spaces, and I'm confident we're going to have a very tight joint once it's installed. So Tonio is assembling the fire flower. We didn't count up exactly how many pieces this is, but it's a lot, and it took him a long time, and he doesn't even realize that he's wasting his life because did not like how this came out at all. It's too dark. Actually, I like the mushroom a lot. Mushroom looks great. The stars, okay, but I don't love it, and I don't like the fire flower at all. He's gonna do another version today with a lighter outside instead of the darker. We're gonna see if that one looks better. This is sort of a perfect example of when sometimes a little bit less is more. We ultimately ended up going with a slightly simpler design, which read much more clearly as what we were going for. The last element to make on the laser was the Jumpman himself. We went with black walnut, maple, and Padauk. Padauk was a question, very bright red compared to the more muted tone of everything else. So the decision was go with red, make him the focal point of this desk, or blend him in with everything else and try to be more true to exactly what the level would look like. And we decided that the Jumpman was worth looking at. Next up, the pipe. I cut and assembled rectangles in different species to match the look. For the mid-tone tile, I had a real choice to make. I could go for the pixel perfect representation, cut a bunch of tiny squares from contrasting woods to replicate the original checkered effect. Or I could take a more creative approach and introduce new wood species. Decided to go with the latter. Adding lace wood covered that mid-textured tone. The natural grain hints at the checkered look from the original game while giving the pipe some extra visual flair. And the tone sits nicely between the dark and light areas. From there, we move on to the Wenge border inlay. This border stretches around the entirety of the desk. I first route out the appropriate depth and then glue the Wenge veneer into place. Now comes the part that really brings the desk to life. Inlaying all the Mario elements that we've been building. The stairs, the ground, the castle, the clouds, vines, everything is about to find its home in the desk. As I'm routing out the areas for each element, I'm constantly checking depth. One slip or mismeasurement and a piece won't fit, so everything has to be precise. The desk is already veneered, so we're working with very thin layers of cherry and wenge. Any mistake could cut through, which is why careful measurement and router setup is key. A basic routing and inlaying process is as follows. We assemble the element that we want to put into the desk. Then we have to trace the outline. We do that with a knife so that we get a deep, crisp line that we can then cut to after we route away the waste. We need to have things taped to hold the veneered assemblies together to glue them in, but you need to tape them face side up so it also obscures what you're looking at. So unless you label things pretty methodically, it's very easy to glue things upside down or backwards, which I learned in the course of this project. I glued in the castle backwards. See, one side has solid blocks. The other side, they're all open. There's no solid blocks. This end is supposed to be over here. I flipped it the wrong way. I double flipped it or didn't double check. I did it wrong. Messed up. It's actually not a disaster. I have tons of this brick stuff left over. I'm gonna make 2 new castle blocks and replace them. Route it out and start over. All right, for the larger pieces, like the ground tiles or the stairs, I start in the center of the element and work my way out so that the router base is always supported as I remove material. And because the clamps can only reach so far, I have to strategically place cauls and blocks to make sure pressure is applied evenly in the area that I want while the glue dries. I think probably the most fun I kind of had was installing the clouds, sort of like knifing the organic shapes, cutting it out and making it fit just right is just satisfying. So you've got a little more freedom. It's a little more fluid with those organic shapes. Large assemblies like this can be difficult if you're not quick. Glue makes wood expand. If your pocket is too tight or you're too slow, you can very quickly have a piece that no longer fits once you set it in the glue. Mario, a lot more intricate. I even colored in the blocks to make sure I didn't chip out the wrong pieces because it gets a little confusing staring at so many lines. All right, so the border. This is an element that's added, well, for a couple reasons. Visually, it just it looks nice. It frames things and kind of makes it pop a little bit. That's sort of, I guess, from the visual perspective. From the functional woodworking perspective, a border like this cleans everything up. So that is an excellent technique for speeding up some of your process and really cleaning up the result. After inlaying, it's all about sanding. End grain, especially on the stairs and the castle, sands differently than the face grain, so it takes patience. After rough sanding, I wipe everything down, circle small problem spots, patch voids or scratches, any issues that need to be dealt with.
And just work it right into there.
Even Mario's hat needs a little tweak. The bill was a little bit too low, so I spent a few minutes fixing that.
There's how you see Mario.
Yeah, they're definitely getting sued. Definitely. Hearing that song, yeah. So yeah, definitely wish I had a possibility to win something like that, but I don't because I'm at Niftski. But good luck to everybody. Definitely gonna heat up. I think whoever holds the world record January 1st wins the desk, gets the $5,000. So yeah, good luck to everyone.